So that's common drain, easy. So let's now look at common source. So let me do common source. So the way I'll draw common source is this way. Now for the common source, I will arbitrarily assume that I have a series resistance with the input source. Okay. I'm just introducing this RS to demonstrate something. And then you have your NMOS transistor, and let us say it's biased with a PMOS transistor using a current source. Okay. So M1, M2, and this is your output. And again, let's quickly lump all the capacitors. Now from the gate to the source and gate to the substrate, you will have one effective lumped capacitor. I will call it, say, C1. Okay. Similarly, at the output, I will have one capacitance to ground. I will call it CO or C0, whatever. In addition, I will also have a capacitor between the gate and drain of the MOSFET. For now, I will ignore this and then see what happens. Later on, we will include it and see. So as usual, let's start with 0. So to find if I have a 0 or not, what should I do? I should be able to short at least one capacitor. So if I, let's say this is V out, it's not clear. If I short C0, what happens to output? 0. If I short C1, what happens to output? 0. Why 0? Yeah, I mean, if I short this, the gate to source voltage for the transistor is 0. So the output is also 0. So do I have any 0 here? So this has no zeros. This should be trivial. Now let's do the poles. So again, for poles, you don't have to look at the input. So now, if I look at the circuit, let me mark it here. This is for poles. So here I seem to have one RC section, right? Similarly, at the output side, I have C0 and some effective R. I have two RC sections. Do you think these two RC sections are coupled? Think of it this way. So one simple thing to do is, again, it's a hand wavy explanation. Let us say I short this capacitor C1. Do you think the resistance looking here will change? No. Similarly, if I short this fellow, will the resistance looking here change? So which means these two capacitors are not coupled to each other, right? Again, not going into a lot of details, but this is okay. So which means you can treat them as isolated independent RC sections. So once again, you can write the pole locations exactly. What is the pole due to this RC section? 1 by Rs times C1. I will write it as Gs by C1, where Gs is 1 by Rs. It's conductance by capacitance. Same thing. And what about the second pole? Second pole is due to the RC section at the output. The capacitance at the output is C0. What is the resistance looking into C0? R01 parallel with R02. I'll write in terms of conductance. So this will become GDS1 plus GDS2, where R0 is the effective output resistance. So this is also simple. So if everything is simple, there is no challenge in life. Let's make it a bit more challenging. And immediately you will see a challenge if I start to include the gate to drain capacitance. I'll call that C. So again, let's start with zeros. So here, can I short any capacitor and still have the output to be non-zero? I mean, if I short C0, the output is 0. Similarly, if I short C1, the VGS is 0, output is still 0. What if I short C? Fine. Is the output 0 if I short C? No. Is that okay? I mean, basically this is the connection. So clear, output is non-zero. So which means you will have a 0, and how many zeros I can have? 1 0. I cannot short any other capacitor, because in addition to this, if I short any other capacitor, the output will become 0. Okay. And this is due to the capacitor C, which I can short, make it infinite. So next is to try to see the physical origin of the 0. So tell me, if the output here again is obtained as sum of two voltages. No. At the output, do I have two paths for current to flow from the input to the output? You have one through capacitor and one through the transistor, and these two will have different frequency dependencies. So at some complex frequency S, the sum can become 0. So now let's try to find it. The out of S is 0. I'll apply KCL at this node. Let me call this gate voltage as some V1 of S in Laplace domain. So I just have to add the currents. So what is the current flowing through the capacitor? V1 of S times SC. Okay. And what about the current flowing through the transistor in this direction upwards? Minus GM1 times sum of these two currents should be equal to what? 0. Done. So again, you can easily argue that V1 of S cannot be non-zero, because I am applying a non-zero input, which means I will get some non-zero V1. So the only possibility for this equation to go to 0 is when S is plus GM1 by C. So is the 0 present in the left half of S plane or right half of S plane? Right half of S plane. Okay. This is an RHP 0. So that's with 0. So okay with 0 calculations. Again, the RHP 0 you can actually look at it this way, right? See, if I look at the current flowing through the capacitor, if this voltage is V1, the current this way is plus V1 times something, whereas the current the transistor is adding is having 180 degree out of phase, minus sign. If they are 180 degree out of phase, you will have RHP 0. If both of them add the same polarity, you will have LHP 0. So this also you should be able to say by inspection. Okay, so now let's move on to poles, which is where interesting things happen. So again, I'll short this fellow. So first of all, how many poles I have here? Number of poles depend on the maximum number of initial conditions you can define for the capacitors. So how many capacitors, how many initial conditions I can define independently here? Because the moment I define the initial conditions across C1 and C0, the voltage across C is defined. You don't have a control. Right? So number of poles is 2, that's trivial. And again, I have two RC sections. Now do you think these two RC sections are coupled or not coupled? They are strongly coupled by this fellow. So that makes it a bit non-trivial, especially because we have an incrementally active element, which is the transistor. So we'll understand why this is not trivial to write the poles by inspection. So here the only way to move forward is try to find out the actual transfer function by writing KCL. Write KCL in Laplace domain. So you'll have two unknowns, V1 and V0. You have two nodes, so two equations and two unknowns. You will have something. So let us say this is V0 of S and V1 of S. Right? You write KCL, you get two equations, two unknowns. You will get a matrix. Use your favorite technique to solve this. Kramer's rule or whatever. It's just an algebra. I don't want to spend time on doing algebra because life is short. I don't want to spend my time doing algebra in the class in this advanced course. But of course, you guys have long time. You are younger than me, so you guys go back home, work out this, write KCL in Laplace domain, solve the transfer function, and if you do it, you might get this. Okay. So let's try to make sense of this. So the write it in the standard form. The DC gain, which is minus Gm or not, and what is the zero frequency here? From this, what is the zero frequency? And that's what we also calculated, so that at least tallies. And then I have a second order polynomial, right? Don't have to copy this polynomial. It's okay. It's fine, right? So again, this is a second order equation. To find the roots, you again like u minus b plus or minus blah 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 blah. You will get some long equations, 2 pages long. Again, the mathematician in you will feel very excited, but the engineer in you should feel very ashamed because that's not what we are here for. So as an engineer, what will you do to simplify this equation? Or as an engineer, what would you do to solve for the equation quickly? We saw in the last class, assume that poles are far apart. And if I do that, how can I approximate the pole locations? If you recollect, we saw if the poles are far apart, the roots are essentially ratios of the polynomial coefficients. So one pole will be ratio of these two terms. Second pole will be ratio of these two terms. So again, you take the ratio. Again, it's algebra. I don't want to do that. So if you do that, this is what you get. Okay. Right? This you can maybe the final pole locations you can take down. Okay. But this is where an engineer stops. What will a good engineer do? Verify that if the assumptions are fine. That's what differentiates a good engineer from a bad engineer. So let's see if the poles are indeed far apart, right? So for that, let's assume all conductances, this Gs, G0, etc. and the capacitances, they are all of similar order. Now look at the denominator here. I have C times 1 plus gain. So this is going to be much larger than all capacitors. That much is clear? So the denominator here will be greater than the denominator here. Okay. Let's look at the numerator. Here I have some conductance. Here I have conductances, but also have Gm. Now I know Gm will be much greater than all your output conductances and stuff. So this is going to be greater. So the numerator of P2 is greater and the denominator of P1 is greater. So which of these two is at a lower frequency? Denominator of this fellow is larger. Numerator of this fellow is larger. Among these two, which is higher than? P2 is higher. So at least now we know P1 is the low frequency pole and P2 is the high frequency pole. So which means the assumptions we made were fine. Put a smiley face. So now this is where a good engineer stops. What will a smart engineer do? By verifying assumptions you already classified as good. Okay? A smart engineer will try to see why these expressions make sense. Right? Let's try to get some intuition out of this. And that's what a smart engineer will do. And of course, obviously I want you guys to become smart engineers. So let's see why these pole equations make sense. Okay? And before we make sense of the pole equations, let's summarize what we have gotten so far. So let me draw the common source again. I had a source resistance Rs, capacitance C1, and then I had the transistor, right? Now the transistor, for small signals, how can I replace the transistor as? Voltage controlled current source. So I will use the symbol for OTA instead of the current source symbol. Okay, so voltage controlled current source, that's what I've drawn. Fine. And then at the output we had an effective output resistance. Let us say that is some R0 or 1 by G0 and some total output capacitance. And initially we didn't consider the gate to drain capacitance, that is the capacitance between these two nodes. So this I will say this is without the capacitance C. For this case, what was the pole locations? In this case, we saw the RC sections were not coupled. So what are the pole locations? GS by C1 and G0 by C0. Okay, conductance by capacitance. Simple. So now to make life challenging, I considered the coupling capacitor C. So with C, I'll just copy the pole equations I got. Okay. So now our goal is to become smart and see why these equations make sense. Right? Because no point in remembering these things unless we get some physical intuition of why these make sense.